For over a century, the extinction of the Neanderthals has puzzled scholars, archaeologists and geneticists alike. Their disappearance, roughly 40,000 years ago, has often been portrayed as the inevitable decline of an archaic cousin overshadowed by the superior intelligence and efficiency of Homo sapiens. But recent discoveries suggest that this narrative is overly simplistic. Instead of a single homogeneous population slowly pushed out by our ancestors, the Neanderthals were far more complex, genetically diverse and geographically fragmented than previously imagined. At the heart of this rethinking lies the discovery of what researchers are now calling a ghost Neanderthal lineage, as reported in a recent study by French archaeologist and self-proclaimed Neanderthal hunter Ludovic Slimak. This elusive group, detected not through bones or artifacts but through faint genetic echoes in the DNA of known Neanderthal fossils, seems to have played a pivotal role in the final chapters of Neanderthal evolution. Nowhere is this clearer than in the enigmatic genetic signals found in fossils from Le Cotte, Goyer, and Spy caves in Belgium and France, sites that may hold the key to understanding the last breaths of the Neanderthal world. Everything must be rewritten about the greatest extinction in humanity and our understanding of this incredible process that will lead Homo sapiens to remain the only survival of humanity, Slimak said. How can we imagine populations that live for 50 millennia in isolation while they are only 2 weeks' walk from each other? All processes need to be rethought, he told Live Science. According to Dr. Slimak, that statement about 2 weeks' walk is meant to evoke something far more profound, the deep cultural and social boundaries that seem to have separated Neanderthal populations even in the absence of geographical obstacles. The rich technical traditions we associate with the Thorin region, termed the post-Neronian II, diverge strikingly from what we know in nearby regions like southern Burgundy, Dordogne, the Pyrenees, or even Languedoc-Roussillon, just a short distance away. More surprisingly still, recent work on lithic sourcing revealed that these post-Neronian II populations never crossed the Rhône, a social boundary that seems extraordinary when we consider that the river was frozen 6 months of the year, and that earlier Neanderthals had routinely crossed it. What we see here is not a matter of physical accessibility, but of cultural closure, isolation, and distinctiveness over tens of millennia. So when I say 2 weeks' walk, I'm really referring to the mystery of proximity without contact, a paradox that haunts our understanding of Neanderthal social landscapes, Slimak explained. The end of the Mousterian lithic tradition, closely associated with Neanderthals, occurred across Western Europe between 39,000 and 41,000 years ago. Directly dated Neanderthal remains from the period between 50,000 and 40,000 years ago are exceedingly rare, especially those that underwent the rigorous process of ultrafiltration to ensure accurate dating. Among the few verified sites, Arcy, Le Cotte, La Ferracie and Saint-Césaire, the remains show us snapshots of a world at its brink. The new picture emerging from genomic analysis is one of fragmentation. Rather than a unified, continent-wide Neanderthal population, late European Neanderthals appear to have broken into isolated communities. These small, local populations had limited interaction with one another and were more genetically distinct than previously assumed. This disconnection would have left them vulnerable to both internal collapse and external competition. One of the most striking discoveries comes from Le Cotte, a Paleolithic site in France. Here, geneticists uncovered signals of gene flow from a deeply divergent Neanderthal lineage, one that did not descend from the so-called Thorin lineage, a recently identified group believed to have existed in relative isolation in southern France and Gibraltar. Instead, this new lineage branched off from the Neanderthal family tree around 89,000 years ago, and has yet to be linked to any known fossil. This unsampled ghost lineage, identified through demographic modelling and D-statistics, contributes its DNA to the Le Cotte Neanderthal, hinting at a complex web of Neanderthal interconnections across space and time. The ghost lineage may be related to the Siberian Neanderthals found at Okladnikov and Chagirskaya caves, as Le Cotte shares a mitochondrial DNA lineage more closely with them than with the classic Vindiger Neanderthals of Croatia. Thorin, The nickname given to the Neanderthal discovered in France's Mandarin Cave is among the most astonishing finds of the last decade. With teeth and skeletal fragments dated to around 42,000 years ago, Thorin represents one of the last Neanderthals in Europe. But what truly sets Thorin apart is his distinctiveness. Genetic analysis reveals that his population had diverged from other European Neanderthals at least 50,000 years earlier, maintaining isolation for tens of millennia. Thorin was not alone. Genetic similarities connect him to a Neanderthal in Gibraltar, nicknamed Nana, who lived at the same time, indicating a widespread but genetically distinct Western population. These groups appear to have had no contact with the more classic Vindiger-like or Altai Neanderthals during their final centuries. What makes this discovery so critical is its revelation of parallel Neanderthal populations coexisting across Europe, seemingly unaware or uninterested in each other. Thorin's people were not descended from the ghost lineage found in Lecotte. This means that, rather than a single Neanderthal population fading into extinction, we are looking at the collapse of multiple independent Neanderthal communities, some interbreeding with ghost populations, others living in isolation. While the Lecotte sample shows signs of ancient gene flow from a ghost lineage, the fossils from Goyer and Spy in Belgium represent a different strand of Neanderthal history. In 2018, researchers extracted nuclear DNA from Goyet Q 561, a right femur dated to about 43,000 years ago. She was a female and genetically most similar to another Belgian Neanderthal, Spy 94A. Spy 94A, identified as a male, comes from the famous Spy Cave and dates to around 39,000 years ago. Together, these two fossils form a genetic cluster with other late European Neanderthals, suggesting some degree of population continuity and shared ancestry. Unlike Thorin and Lecotte, the Goyer Spy group fits more neatly within the framework of late classic Neanderthals who might have once been considered a uniform population. However, even this picture is now shifting. The similarities between Goyer and Spy contrast sharply with the genetic oddities found in Lecotte and Mandarin Cave, suggesting that even in areas where we assumed continuity, there may have been local turnover or admixture events. What is most significant about the Goyer Spy lineage is that, unlike Thorin and the Lecotte Neanderthal, there's no detectable signal of admixture with the ghost lineage. This makes them key representatives of a traditional Neanderthal group that may have persisted longest before Homo sapiens completed the replacement process. Of the various problems relating to extinct forms of man, none is of greater interest than that which concerns Homo neanderthalensis, wrote Dr. Arthur Keith of the Royal College of London on the 25th of July, 1918. He continued, "This peculiar and extinct species of man appeared in Europe about the commencement of the Mousterian cultural period, and all traces of him vanished towards the close of that period. Where he came from and where he finally disappeared, we do not know, hence every additional fact we can collect about him is of value." This statement still holds true over 100 years later. What the genetic and archaeological data now reveal is a far more intricate picture of the Neanderthal Twilight than we once imagined. Instead of a slow genetic decline and cultural assimilation, there was fragmentation, isolation, rare gene flow events, and the survival of pockets of genetically distinct populations. The ghost lineage discovered at Lecotte was not a marginal anomaly. It represents an entire branch of Neanderthals that we have never seen before, but who interacted with known groups near the end of their existence. Meanwhile, Thorin's people held on to their genetic identity for over 50,000 years, perhaps clinging to traditions and environments far removed from the other Neanderthal groups. And in Belgium, the Goyer and Spy Neanderthals remind us that some groups may have indeed represented the last unified Neanderthal culture in Europe, but even they were part of a broader and more diverse picture. The notion of a ghost. Neanderthal lineage reshapes the evolutionary story of our closest cousins. Rather than a story of decline, we are faced with one of diversity, experimentation, and survival against increasing odds. The ghost lineage of Lecotte, the isolated Thorin group, and the Goye spy cluster each reveal a different thread in the Neanderthal tapestry. It raises profound questions. How many of these ghost populations existed? Were they wiped out by changing climates, by Homo sapiens, or by sheer demographic fragility? Did they live in mountain valleys, caves, or forests, now long buried? Could future digs finally reveal their bones? And most significantly, are there echoes of these ghost Neanderthals, not only in the bones of Thorin, but within humans living today? As the field of paleogenomics grows and more ancient DNA is extracted, the story of the Neanderthals will only become richer and more tangled. But one thing is clear. Far from a dying echo, the Neanderthals left behind a symphony of lineages, a chorus of ghosts still whispering from Europe's deep past. Thank you for watching, and please leave comments and subscribe to our channel.